when rain changes everything and collide into a love episode. Rain hammered against the glass doors of Willis Tower, flooding the lobby with streaks of gray. Jasmine Rivera charged forward, clutching her soaked folder, her thrift store suit plastered to her skin. Papers slipped from her grasp, fluttering across the marble floor. She collided with a man stepping through the opposite revolving door. Alexander Bennett went down with a crash, coffee sloshing from his cup. His expensive wool coat was damp, shoes scuffed against the marble. For a moment, neither moved, their eyes locking across scattered resumes and dripping rainwater. Jasmine scrambled to gather her documents, hands shaking, heart racing. "I'm so sorry. I didn't see. Are you hurt?" Alexander asked, crouching beside her. Concern lingered in his tone, momentarily replacing the calm authority that defined him. Something in her eyes held his attention, a determination and focus that seemed familiar despite the difference in their worlds. He offered a hand, and she took it, rising to her feet. "You're going to be late," he said, noticing the Sterling Dynamics folder. "I already am," she admitted, frustration threading her voice. Alexander made a quick decision, one that ignored schedules and hierarchy. "Let me help you." A collision of worlds had just occurred. Two lives, set on separate paths, were about to intersect in a way neither expected. But how did a chance encounter in a storm transform two completely different lives? Subscribe, tell us where you're watching from, and don't miss tomorrow's story. Your support brings more powerful stories to life. Let's begin. Jasmine Rivera had grown up in Bronzeville, in a small apartment on King Drive that had belonged to her grandmother for decades. The living room was modest, filled with well-worn furniture and the faint scent of Sunday dinners that lingered even on weekdays. Her grandmother's kitchen table had been a gathering place for 3 generations, where lessons about perseverance, family, and community were shared alongside plates of fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. Gospel music drifted from nearby churches, filling the neighborhood with an unmistakable rhythm that spoke of resilience and history. From an early age, Jasmine learned that opportunities were scarce and that ambition required effort beyond what came naturally. She attended neighborhood schools, often seeing classmates abandon dreams under the weight of circumstance. She worked part-time jobs to help at home, taking extra shifts when her grandmother fell ill or when rent needed to be covered. Despite the obstacles, Jasmine maintained a bright curiosity and a drive that separated her from many peers. By the time she entered community college, she had discovered her aptitude for analysis and organization. She had a natural talent for numbers and strategy, often helping local businesses with budgets or guiding neighbors on managing limited resources. Her professors recognized her commitment and encouraged her to apply for a bachelor's program at Chicago State University. There, Jasmine balanced rigorous coursework with a night shift at a diner near Millennium Park. The diner was small but steady, with the smell of coffee and pancakes permeating the air. She memorized the regular orders, managing customers with a friendly efficiency even on nights when exhaustion weighed on her shoulders. Her days were long and carefully scheduled. Early morning classes, afternoons spent in the library, evenings at the diner, and late nights reviewing assignments. Sleep was scarce, yet she maintained a 3.8 GPA, a record of achievement that reflected more than intelligence. It spoke to discipline and resilience. Each dollar she earned was saved toward her professional wardrobe, transportation, and the cost of living. The sacrifices were constant, but Jasmine believed her work would pay off. Every challenge was a step toward proving that her determination could overcome circumstance. Meanwhile, Alexander Bennett had grown up in Oak Park, a middle-class suburb of Chicago. His childhood was comfortable, with parents who valued education and instilled a strong work ethic. He attended local schools, excelled academically, and discovered an early interest in business and finance. College introduced him to ambitious peers and mentors, and he quickly recognized opportunities to create ventures that others overlooked. After graduation, he launched Sterling Dynamics from a small office, relying on careful strategy, calculated risks, and a relentless work schedule. Years of long hours and focused attention transformed the company into a major player in Chicago's financial scene. From modest beginnings to a penthouse in the Gold Coast, Alexander's rise was impressive. Success brought recognition and wealth, but it also created distance. Relationships often felt transactional, and despite being surrounded by staff, advisors, and acquaintances, he experienced a quiet isolation. The penthouse, though luxurious, echoed with the absence of true connection, a reminder that achieving the highest ambitions sometimes left personal life sparse. The morning of the storm was intended to be routine for both Jasmine and Alexander, but routine quickly dissolved. For Jasmine, it began with a failed alarm caused by a sudden power outage in her apartment building. By the time she realized she had overslept, rain had already begun in earnest, drenching the streets of Chicago. The Chicago Transit Authority reported delays due to water on several train lines, slowing her journey into the financial district. Each missed connection increased her anxiety. Her professional folder, carefully packed with resumes and references, was vulnerable to the rain seeping through her damp bag. Alexander's morning had started in his corner office, overlooking the city with a view that stretched across Lake Michigan. He had planned a brief escape from his routine, a walk to his favorite cafe near the Chicago River for coffee. The storm, however, forced him to reconsider the simple pleasures of anonymity he sought. Wind and rain whipped through the streets, filling the air with a raw intensity that mirrored the turbulence in the city below. Both of them were navigating the same streets, but from very different worlds. Jasmine's path was urgent, propelled by ambition, fear of lateness, and the weight of expectations she carried for herself and her family. Alexander's steps were careful and deliberate, influenced by years of success and a desire to maintain control amid chaos. Neither expected that these paths would converge, that the storm would act as more than a meteorological event and instead become a catalyst for change. As the rain intensified, the streets of Chicago became a mix of rushing pedestrians, umbrellas struggling against the wind, and vehicles attempting to navigate flooded intersections. Jasmine ran past Millennium Park, dodging puddles and maneuvering around other commuters who seemed more concerned with keeping their suits dry than the storm itself. Each step brought her closer to Willis Tower, her mind racing through potential solutions to every problem the morning had presented. Alexander, moving against the crowd with an umbrella that threatened to invert in the wind, maintained a steady pace toward the revolving doors of Willis Tower. The storm had forced him to adjust his routine, but it also allowed him to observe the city in a way he rarely did. For the first time in months, he was not inside his office plotting deals or reviewing spreadsheets. He was just a man walking in the rain, temporarily removed from the constraints of his title and fortune. The collision of their morning trajectories was imminent. Jasmine's urgency and Alexander's rare attempt at normalcy placed them on a direct path toward each other. The storm was no longer just a background. It had become a force shaping the encounter that would soon transform both lives. Their individual worlds, one defined by struggle and determination, the other by achievement and solitude, were on the verge of intersecting in a way neither could have anticipated. The stage was set. Papers, umbrellas, wind, and rain converged, preparing the scene for the moment that would become unforgettable. Neither Jasmine nor Alexander could have predicted how a simple morning commute, altered by circumstances beyond their control, would become the turning point that redirected the course of both their futures. Rain pounded on the streets of downtown Chicago, turning sidewalks into slick paths of water. Jasmine Rivera ran with urgency, dodging puddles and weaving through pedestrians who moved slower, umbrellas struggling against the gusting wind. Each step brought her closer to Willis Tower, closer to an interview that represented years of effort, sacrifices, and dreams. Her folder was clutched tightly, soaked edges curling, resumes trembling with every sprint. The city's rhythm, horns, rushing feet, raindrops hitting concrete, merged with the rapid beat of her heart. She passed Millennium Park, ignoring the fountain's splashing spray and the occasional pedestrian who slowed her pace. The storm forced a rhythm on the streets, and every step felt heavier, every breath harder, but Jasmine refused to relent. Each second mattered. She pictured the interview panel, her hard work, her grandmother's advice, and the countless nights of studying and waiting tables. Nothing could stop her. Not rain, not exhaustion, not delays. Meanwhile, Alexander Bennett had left his corner office, taking an unusual break from his meticulously scheduled day. The storm had made stepping outside necessary, a brief escape from the constant demands of his empire. He carried a small umbrella, the wind tugging at it as he moved toward his favorite cafe near the Chicago River. For a few moments, he was just another person walking through the city, observing the chaos with a detached curiosity. The rain fell on his coat, dampening the fabric, but he welcomed the interruption. It reminded him that the world existed beyond spreadsheets, meetings, and investments. The streets funneled toward Willis Tower, converging both Jasmine's and Alexander's paths. She was rushing upward toward the building, slipping slightly on wet patches, while he moved with controlled steps toward the revolving doors. Neither could predict how fate had synchronized their movements. Jasmine's focus narrowed entirely on the entrance, the steel and glass doors reflecting the gray sky above. She approached at full speed, papers already scattered from the folder she had been clutching. The rainwater made the marble floor slick, and every step amplified the urgency she felt in her chest. At the same time, Alexander reached the doors, coffee cup in hand, umbrella struggling to stay intact. The collision was immediate. Jasmine's momentum carried her directly into Alexander, the impact sending him backward, coffee spilling across the floor. The folders slipped entirely from her grasp, documents scattering in the slick lobby. Rainwater dripped from the revolving doors, pooling around their feet, making the marble gleam under the storm's reflection. Both fell to the floor. Jasmine instinctively crouched to gather her papers, wet hair plastered to her forehead. "I'm so sorry. I didn't see you, Her words were cut short by the shock of contact and the intensity of the moment. Alexander steadied himself, glancing at her quickly. "Are you hurt?" His voice carried concern, a break from the confidence he maintained in boardrooms and interviews. He crouched beside her, gathering scattered documents. The expensive watch on his wrist glinted under the lobby lights, and his coat was damp, but none of that mattered. For a moment, the storm outside seemed distant, replaced by the sudden proximity of someone who radiated determination despite the chaos. Their eyes met. Jasmine saw more than wealth or status in him. She saw focus, a quiet intensity, and a recognition of persistence she had worked to cultivate. Alexander noticed the clarity in her gaze, a sense of purpose and drive rare even in his circles. The collision was no longer simply a physical event. It carried the weight of two lives intersecting in ways that neither could yet comprehend. Jasmine scrambled to straighten the papers, shaking as she tried to protect her professional work from the rain. Alexander, noticing the Sterling Dynamics folder, made a decision that surprised even him. He had authority, resources, and influence that could solve problems for anyone. But this was different. There was no calculation behind the choice, only an instinct to act. "Your interview," he said gently, nodding to the folder. "You're going to be late." "I already am," Jasmine admitted, frustration and worry threading her voice. Her hands were trembling, wet from rain and tension. Alexander extended a hand to help her rise. "Let me help you." For Jasmine, the offer was unexpected. Most people in her experience might ignore a stranger, especially one clearly absorbed in his own schedule. Alexander's choice to intervene carried a weight beyond the physical assistance. It was acknowledgement that her determination mattered, that her moment was worth preserving. She accepted his hand, rising to her feet, soaking wet but steady. The lobby felt different now. The noise of rain hitting the glass, the echo of footsteps on marble, and the hum of revolving doors faded into a backdrop as both considered the encounter. Neither had spoken of careers, achievements, or status. The connection was immediate, grounded in something unspoken yet unmistakable. Alexander bent to gather the last of the scattered documents. His movements were precise, careful, Yet there was an ease in his posture that suggested he was acting from instinct rather than expectation. Jasmine, busy arranging the resumes, stole a glance at him and felt an unusual sense of calm amid the chaos. The storm, the urgency, the chaos, it had brought them together in a way that words could not capture. For a brief moment, the lobby contained only the two of them, rain dripping from umbrellas and coats, the sound of traffic distant, irrelevant. Alexander's decision to help had set a chain in motion, one neither would understand fully for hours, days, or even weeks. The collision had been physical, yes, but its impact extended far beyond the lobby's marble floors. This was the beginning of something neither had anticipated, a turning point concealed within an ordinary, stormy morning. Two worlds, previously separate, had aligned in that instant, and the consequences were about to unfold in ways that would test ambition, courage, and the choices they had made to arrive at that moment. Alexander guided Jasmine through the lobby, the storm still hammering against the glass exterior. With a quick call on his phone, he arranged for her interview to be delayed just enough to allow her to recover from the rain-soaked chaos. The request was met without question. The voice on the other end recognized his authority immediately. For Jasmine, the extension felt like a second chance carved out of sheer circumstance. The elevator ride to the 40th floor was quiet, filled with the hum of machinery and the occasional beep of control panels. Jasmine clutched her folder, still damp from rain, her mind racing with thoughts of the interview ahead. Alexander stood beside her, calm, precise, and unexpectedly reassuring. He didn't speak much, but his presence provided a sense of stability that contrasted sharply with the turbulence of the morning. The doors opened to reveal Sterling Dynamics office floors. The space was grand, modern, and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered sweeping views of Lake Michigan, where gray waves met the horizon, echoing the storm outside. Original artwork lined the walls, and glass partitions separated conference rooms and workspaces. Every detail screamed success, precision, and control. Jasmine felt both awe and apprehension as she took in the environment. Alexander led her through the office, showing her the analyst floor and a few executive suites. Employees paused briefly to acknowledge him, their recognition brief but respectful. For Jasmine, the tour was both inspiring and daunting. An entire world of finance, power, and influence stretched out before her, a stark contrast to her experiences in Bronzeville. As they approached the conference room for the interview, Jasmine adjusted her damp hair and tried to regain composure. She had prepared thoroughly for this moment, but the unexpected collision, rain, and elevator ride had thrown off her rhythm. Alexander opened the door, and she stepped inside, surprised to find the panel already seated, waiting with polite but expectant expressions. A voice at the head of the table introduced itself. "Ms. Rivera, welcome. You have the floor." Jasmine nodded, offering a small smile, and began presenting her insights on Sterling Dynamics' market approach. She spoke with clarity, citing research and data, demonstrating both analytical skill and practical understanding. Her words were deliberate, measured, and confident despite the earlier chaos. Halfway through her presentation, the door opened and Alexander entered. He removed his coat and umbrella, revealing himself in full executive presence. The recognition in Jasmine's eyes was immediate. Shock, surprise, and a brief hesitation flickered across her expression. She had only seen him as the stranger who helped her moments before, not the CEO overseeing the very opportunity she had been pursuing. The panel glanced at each other, but allowed the interaction to unfold naturally. Jasmine regained her composure quickly, continuing her presentation without faltering. Her performance was precise, thoughtful, and informed. She demonstrated not only technical understanding, but an awareness of Sterling Dynamics' broader mission and the potential for finance to create meaningful change. When asked about her experience beyond academics, Jasmine spoke openly about organizing neighborhood financial literacy workshops in Bronzeville and helping local business owners understand investment opportunities. She described her vision for community-focused financial strategies, emphasizing empowerment and accessibility. The panel listened intently, noting both her intelligence and her integrity. Alexander, seated quietly at the end of the table, observed closely. He was struck not only by her knowledge, but by the authenticity of her perspective. She did not speak to impress. She spoke from experience, from the work she had done, and the community she represented. Her approach to problem-solving revealed a rare combination of analytical skill and social awareness. Questions followed on market trends, risk management, and company strategy. Jasmine responded with poise, drawing on research and intuition, demonstrating her ability to analyze and communicate complex information effectively. Her focus never wavered, even as the unexpected presence of the CEO added pressure. Each answer reinforced that she was prepared not just for the role, but for challenges beyond the typical junior analyst position. When the panel asked about her long-term goals, Jasmine articulated a vision that connected her career ambitions with community impact. She spoke of sustainable finance, mentorship programs, and initiatives that would create opportunities for underrepresented communities. Her words were measured, thoughtful, and convincing, leaving little doubt about her commitment to both personal growth and the greater good. By the conclusion of the interview, the panel was impressed not only by Jasmine's technical capabilities, but also by the depth of her character. Alexander remained quiet, allowing the discussion to unfold organically, though internally he was reassessing the criteria he had long used to evaluate talent. Jasmine had shifted the conversation from traditional metrics of success to a broader understanding of potential, values, and resilience. When the meeting ended, Jasmine stood, gathering her papers once more. She looked toward Alexander, who nodded in acknowledgement. No words were exchanged, yet a mutual understanding had formed. This encounter had altered their perceptions, leaving both aware that the morning's collision was not a coincidence, but the beginning of something significant. As she exited the conference room, the rain outside had slowed to a drizzle. Jasmine stepped onto the marble floor with renewed focus, her confidence bolstered by the experience. Alexander followed briefly, making sure she navigated the space without difficulty. The lobby, the elevators, the towering cityscape, they all felt different now, charged with potential and possibility. This interview was more than a professional assessment. It was a moment of alignment between determination and opportunity, between preparation and unexpected intervention. Jasmine's skill, character, and vision had impressed everyone in the room, including the very person whose support had ensured she could even arrive. The morning's storm, the collision, and the subsequent guidance had converged to create a moment that neither would forget. The consequences of this interview would reach far beyond the walls of Sterling Dynamics, setting in motion changes that affected careers, relationships, and perspectives on success. What began with rain-soaked urgency and scattered papers had transformed into an encounter that revealed promise, integrity, and the beginning of a connection that would grow over time. Jasmine's first weeks at Sterling Dynamics were a mix of challenge and discovery. The office, with its sweeping views of Lake Michigan and precise corporate rhythm, felt imposing at first. She navigated complex spreadsheets, client reports, and team meetings while absorbing the subtle dynamics that governed the firm. Each day presented new hurdles, from understanding internal workflows to analyzing market data under tight deadlines. Despite the pressure, Jasmine approached every task with focus and curiosity, her determination evident to colleagues and supervisors alike. Alexander found reasons to visit the analyst floor more frequently than usual. Casual excuses about reviewing projects or checking client files masked a genuine interest in observing Jasmine's approach. He noticed her meticulous organization, her clear explanations in team discussions, and the respect she earned from peers. Her dedication reminded him of qualities he admired in leaders: integrity, resilience, and the ability to inspire others. What began as professional oversight gradually evolved into anticipation of these encounters, subtle moments that disrupted his usual routine and brought a sense of energy he had not felt in years. One crisp autumn afternoon, Alexander stepped into Grant Park to clear his mind after a demanding board meeting. The air carried the sharp freshness of impending winter, and golden leaves swirled along paved pathways. Near Buckingham Fountain, he saw Jasmine sitting alone, tossing small crumbs to pigeons and watching the water ripple. Her expression was calm, reflective, distant from the storm of spreadsheets, meetings, and financial projections. "Rough day?" he asked, lowering himself onto the bench beside her. Jasmine looked up, mildly surprised but not startled. "Just thinking," she replied, her gaze lingering on the fountain's cascading tears. "My grandmother used to say that when life gets complicated, you should sit by water and remember what really matters." Alexander nodded, sensing a depth in her words that extended beyond simple advice. For the first time, conversation flowed naturally between them, unbound by titles, expectations, or obligations. They spoke about their experiences, the paths that had brought them to this city, and the choices they had made along the way. Jasmine shared stories of Bronzeville, the challenges she had faced, and the community initiatives she had led. Alexander, in turn, spoke of the isolation that accompanied success, the weight of decisions that affected countless others, and the moments he wondered if wealth had truly brought fulfillment. Time passed unnoticed. Hours seemed to contract as dialogue moved from light anecdotes to meaningful reflections. The connection between them deepened, revealing shared values and ambitions despite the differences in upbringing, environment, and circumstance. They discovered parallels in their motivations. Both had sacrificed personal comfort for growth, both sought to create impact beyond themselves, and both craved authentic connection. Jasmine listened as Alexander described evenings alone in his penthouse, the quiet punctuated only by city sounds and the occasional phone call. She felt a mixture of empathy and understanding, recognizing that his isolation stemmed not from a lack of capability, but from the demands and expectations he had willingly assumed. Alexander, meanwhile, appreciated Jasmine's candid perspective on ambition, her dedication to family and community, and the balance she maintained between work and values. Their conversation moved seamlessly into hopes and dreams. Jasmine spoke of pursuing an MBA, designing financial programs for underrepresented communities, and mentoring young professionals in Bronzeville. Alexander revealed ambitions that extended beyond corporate growth, investing in initiatives with measurable social impact, fostering environments where young talent could thrive, and building opportunities for those historically overlooked by the financial sector. Each revelation strengthened a mutual respect, forming a foundation that extended beyond professional admiration. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long reflections across the fountain's water, both recognized the subtle shift in their relationship. The casual interactions in the office, the chance meetings in elevators, and the brief exchanges over coffee had taken on new meaning. Their connection had grown from convenience and circumstance into genuine interest and shared understanding. The boundaries that once existed, CEO and junior analyst, corporate powerhouse and neighborhood advocate, were softening under the weight of conversation, honesty, and mutual recognition of character. For Alexander, this realization was as unsettling as it was energizing. He had carefully curated his world to minimize vulnerability and maximize efficiency. Yet Jasmine's presence introduced something unplanned. The desire to see her succeed, the wish to protect her confidence, and the acknowledgement that her success and insight enriched his perspective. Her independence and intelligence did not challenge him. They encouraged him to reflect on his own life and priorities. For Jasmine, the acknowledgement was equally transformative. Alexander's guidance, his willingness to extend help beyond expectation, and the respect he showed her in the office signaled a rare combination of power and empathy. She felt seen in a way uncommon in professional settings, where ambition often met condescension or indifference. Their conversation in the park confirmed what she had sensed. There was authenticity behind his position, a willingness to engage with the world in a way that aligned with her own values. As dusk approached, they stood, both recognizing the need to return to their routines, yet unwilling to let the conversation end. The fountain continued its steady rhythm, mirroring the flow of words, ideas, and understanding that had passed between them. Both were aware that this encounter marked a turning point. What had begun with professional obligation and circumstance was evolving into something more complex, meaningful, and compelling. Their first steps toward love were quiet, unassuming, and grounded in mutual respect. There was no rush, no declaration, only the awareness that the collision of their worlds, the rain-soaked morning, the interviews, the office encounters, had created the conditions for connection. They left the park with a subtle acknowledgement that this relationship would demand patience, care, and reflection, but also with the understanding that it held promise far beyond the limits of their professional roles. In the weeks that followed, the momentum of this connection continued. Casual exchanges grew into intentional conversations. Professional admiration evolved into shared laughter, exchanged ideas, and growing comfort in each other's presence. Each meeting, each discussion, reinforced the realization that what had started in a lobby on a rainy morning was now unfolding into something deeper. Their partnership was forming not from convenience or obligation, but from authentic understanding and the alignment of personal values and aspirations. As autumn deepened into winter, Alexander and Jasmine's relationship began to evolve, shaped by shared experiences and mutual curiosity. Their encounters outside the office became intentional, though still infused with spontaneity. One evening, Alexander invited Jasmine to the Lyric Opera. She had attended performances before, but never in the kind of setting that demanded both formality and appreciation of the subtle craft on stage. The theater, grand yet intimate, held an air of history and discipline, and Jasmine found herself captivated not only by the performance, but by Alexander's attention to detail. The way he noticed the nuances in the music and the coordination of the orchestra. For Alexander, accompanying Jasmine to these events was an opportunity to understand the world she navigated comfortably and to appreciate the elegance and structure that had shaped high society. He observed how she responded to the performance, her quiet reflections, and the questions she asked, noting how her curiosity extended beyond the obvious. Jasmine, in turn, appreciated Alexander's willingness to immerse himself fully, engaging with the culture rather than remaining detached. Their conversations afterward were lively and thoughtful, connecting music and art to broader ideas about human experience, business, and personal ambition. Conversely, Jasmine welcomed Alexander into her world in Bronzeville. Sunday dinners at her grandmother's apartment became a ritual he eagerly anticipated. The space, warm and filled with the aroma of traditional dishes, offered a glimpse into a life grounded in history, community, and resilience. Alexander admired the ease with which Jasmine moved among neighbors and family, listening attentively, helping with preparations, and sharing in the laughter that filled the apartment. These gatherings revealed a perspective on life that contrasted sharply with his usual environment, emphasizing collaboration, empathy, and shared responsibility. Through these experiences, Alexander began to internalize values he had not prioritized. The significance of supporting community initiatives, the impact of mentorship, and the importance of giving back became clearer to him. He saw how Jasmine's dedication strengthened bonds and inspired others to pursue their goals with intention and integrity. The warmth of her circle and the respect she commanded without assertion offered him a model of leadership rooted in authenticity. At the same time, Jasmine gained insight into the structured precision of Alexander's world. Attending high-profile events, dinners with business leaders, and charity galas provided exposure to the coordination, negotiation, and vision required to operate at such a scale. She observed how influence could be leveraged responsibly, how strategic decisions affected broader markets, and how effective leadership required both foresight and moral judgment. While initially intimidating, these experiences encouraged her to think expansively, integrating her commitment to community with opportunities for larger impact. Their personal lives also began to intertwine more subtly. Shared walks along the lakefront, casual dinners, and quiet conversations revealed vulnerabilities previously hidden. Alexander spoke of the loneliness that had accompanied success, the pressure of responsibility, and the absence of connection despite material abundance. Jasmine shared the weight of expectations, the desire to support her family, and the determination to create a legacy that balanced personal ambition with communal benefit. In these exchanges, they found empathy and understanding, discovering that differences in upbringing were not obstacles but opportunities for growth. As December arrived, the first snow blanketed Chicago, transforming the city into a quiet expanse of white and silver. Alexander invited Jasmine to the John Hancock Building observation deck to experience the city from above. The elevator ride was filled with anticipation, both reflecting on the year and the evolving nature of their bond. When they stepped onto the observation deck, the city stretched out below, lights twinkling through the snowfall, Lake Michigan frozen in muted gray tones under the fading daylight. They lingered at the railing, watching the snow settle on rooftops and streets. Words gave way to silence, and in that quiet, the weight of their connection became undeniable. The months of shared experiences, honest conversation, and mutual respect converged into a single, unspoken understanding. Alexander reached for Jasmine's hand, and she met his gaze, their eyes conveying the depth of feeling neither had fully articulated before. The first kiss was gentle, deliberate, and unhurried. It was not a sudden spark, but the culmination of shared understanding, trust, and growing affection. For both, it represented more than attraction. It was recognition that their relationship enhanced their lives without demanding change in fundamental identity. Alexander was not trying to reshape Jasmine, and she did not seek to redefine him. Instead, they found a partnership that amplified strengths, balanced weaknesses, and encouraged authenticity. Over the following weeks, this dynamic continued to solidify. They approached decisions together, from daily routines to broader discussions about career and purpose. Alexander supported Jasmine's initiatives at Sterling Dynamics, offering guidance without overstepping. Jasmine encouraged Alexander to consider community-driven projects and to approach business decisions with a broader ethical lens. The mutual influence was subtle yet profound, fostering growth without pressure or compromise. Their relationship also strengthened through ordinary moments. Weekend brunches, shared coffee breaks, and casual conversations in the office provided space for laughter, reflection, and candid observation. Each encounter reinforced trust, built resilience in their partnership, and allowed them to explore emotions often neglected in their fast-paced lives. They discovered that love could coexist with ambition, that connection did not diminish independence, and that shared values provided a foundation stronger than circumstance or status. By the end of the year, both Alexander and Jasmine had a clearer understanding of themselves and each other. The contrast between high society and community roots was no longer a barrier, but a bridge. Their shared experiences had cultivated empathy, respect, and admiration, demonstrating that differences could enrich rather than complicate relationships. Love, they realized, was not about transforming the other person, but about discovering the ways two lives could grow together without compromising integrity. As the snow fell outside, covering the city in quiet reflection, Alexander and Jasmine's relationship had matured from curiosity and connection into partnership and shared vision. Their bond had become a living example of how two worlds, distinct yet complementary, could merge to create understanding, growth, and a shared sense of purpose. As their relationship deepened, challenges emerged from both professional and personal spheres. Alexander's board of directors began raising questions about his judgment. Gossip circulated quietly at first, then more openly, suggesting that his personal involvement with an employee could cloud decision-making or present conflicts of interest. Whispers followed him into meetings and strategy sessions, with some executives speculating whether his priorities had shifted from corporate growth to personal attachments. Alexander felt the tension, but did not retreat. He approached each conversation with transparency, emphasizing that Jasmine's role and performance were based on merit, not personal connection. Meanwhile, Jasmine experienced pressure from her community. Friends and neighbors voiced concerns about her relationship with someone so far removed from her upbringing. Some questioned whether she risked losing her roots or compromising her values by entering Alexander's world. While the advice was well-intentioned, it stirred doubt and self-reflection. Jasmine respected these perspectives, understanding that their concern came from care, yet she remained committed to balancing her personal ambitions with her dedication to her community. Her grandmother, a guiding presence throughout Jasmine's life, initially expressed hesitation. She worried that Alexander's wealth and lifestyle might overshadow Jasmine's independence and purpose. Their conversations were honest and candid. Jasmine explained how she intended to maintain her principles, continue her community work, and pursue her career on her own terms. Over time, her grandmother recognized that Jasmine's choices were deliberate, rooted in integrity, and guided by clear values. What began as concern gradually shifted to understanding and support, solidifying family trust. Both Alexander and Jasmine faced external pressures simultaneously. The challenge was not only navigating the expectations of others, but also preserving their own principles and sense of purpose. They recognized that avoiding these obstacles would mean denying their connection and limiting growth. Instead, they approached each situation with honesty, communication, and mutual respect. Alexander took proactive steps to address corporate concerns. He ensured that all decisions regarding promotions, project assignments, and evaluations were transparent and justified based on performance metrics. By demonstrating objectivity and fairness, he gradually reassured the board that personal relationships did not interfere with professional judgment. Jasmine's exceptional performance provided tangible evidence that merit guided opportunity, strengthening Alexander's position and quieting doubts among colleagues. Jasmine also navigated scrutiny with grace. She continued her involvement in Bronzeville, attending neighborhood events, mentoring youth, and supporting local initiatives. Her engagement made clear that her values and commitments were unchanged by her relationship. Community members began to observe that her influence within Sterling Dynamics could benefit Bronzeville, opening doors to opportunities previously unavailable. Over time, skepticism softened into cautious optimism, as Jasmine's actions reflected authenticity rather than ambition divorced from responsibility. Their shared resilience became a foundation for growth. They learned to discuss challenges openly, share fears without judgment, and develop strategies that aligned with both personal and professional objectives. Difficult conversations became opportunities to reinforce trust, ensuring that neither compromised identity nor ambition for the sake of convenience. This mutual support strengthened their bond, proving that partnership required alignment in values, not just affection. Alexander also embraced lessons from Jasmine's world. Exposure to community needs, aspirations, and practical concerns reshaped his approach to leadership. He began considering initiatives that extended Sterling Dynamics' influence beyond profits, integrating programs for financial literacy, mentorship, and sustainable development. Jasmine's perspective illuminated gaps in his understanding and encouraged actions that aligned corporate success with societal benefit. For Jasmine, the experience highlighted the importance of navigating elite circles without losing authenticity. She discovered strategies to assert influence while remaining grounded, advocating for initiatives and perspectives that reflected her background. Her growing confidence in bridging these worlds allowed her to advocate effectively within Sterling Dynamics and maintain credibility within Bronzeville. A turning point came during a neighborhood meeting organized by Jasmine. Alexander attended, showing his commitment to her world not as a token gesture, but with genuine interest. He listened attentively to residents' concerns, engaged with questions about financial programs, and offered insights without overshadowing Jasmine's leadership. Witnessing this, her grandmother expressed admiration, noting that Alexander's respect and willingness to learn reflected the qualities of a supportive partner, not a dominating presence. Simultaneously, Alexander's board began to acknowledge that Jasmine's influence was positive, enhancing rather than compromising organizational objectives. By observing the results of community-focused initiatives, executives realized that the relationship could foster constructive outcomes, creating bridges between Sterling Dynamics and local programs. Skepticism gradually shifted to acceptance, as evidence of integrity and impact replaced rumors and assumptions. Throughout this period, the couple cultivated patience and perspective. External pressures were not dismissed. They were addressed deliberately, with attention to long-term outcomes rather than immediate comfort. Each challenge tested commitment, judgment, and adaptability, reinforcing the idea that lasting partnerships require more than shared feelings. They demand alignment in values, resilience in the face of scrutiny, and a willingness to act collaboratively. By maintaining open communication, demonstrating consistent principles, and integrating their respective worlds, Alexander and Jasmine overcame resistance from both professional and personal spheres. Their relationship became a model of balance. Ambition paired with empathy, influence paired with responsibility, and personal connection paired with ethical action. The process was not instantaneous. There were difficult conversations, moments of doubt, and adjustments necessary to maintain harmony. Yet through persistence and mutual reinforcement, both Alexander and Jasmine emerged with strengthened character, deeper trust, and a more comprehensive understanding of their potential impact on each other's lives and the communities they touched. Ultimately, facing these challenges together revealed a truth both had suspected but not yet fully embraced. Partnership is not simply about shared affection. It is about confronting challenges, aligning values, supporting growth, and proving through action that two people can amplify each other's strengths without compromising integrity. By navigating professional scrutiny, community expectations, and familial concerns, Alexander and Jasmine confirmed the durability of their bond and the capacity of love to coexist with responsibility and purpose. With Alexander and Jasmine aligned both personally and professionally, Sterling Dynamics began a deliberate transformation. Their combined influence shifted the company's focus from purely financial gains to initiatives that considered broader societal impact. Ethical investing became a priority, with careful analysis ensuring that portfolios balanced profit with positive community outcomes. Jasmine advocated for projects that provided measurable benefits to underrepresented neighborhoods, while Alexander applied his strategic insight to integrate these initiatives without compromising the firm's competitive position. Within months, the firm introduced programs to support local entrepreneurship, including microloans for small businesses in Chicago communities. Partnerships were established with financial literacy organizations, mentoring programs for young professionals, and grants for sustainable development projects. The company's culture adapted alongside these changes. Employees were encouraged to propose projects that aligned with both business objectives and social responsibility. What began as a vision gradually became a measurable impact, strengthening morale, client relationships, and public reputation. Meanwhile, Jasmine pursued her MBA at Northwestern Kellogg, specializing in sustainable finance and community development. Her studies deepened her understanding of complex financial instruments, impact measurement, and long-term investment strategies. She combined academic knowledge with hands-on experience at Sterling Dynamics, designing programs that bridged corporate resources and community needs. Her thesis, focused on scalable financial models for underrepresented areas, gained attention from local leaders and policymakers, positioning her as a rising voice in sustainable finance. Alexander observed her growth with admiration. He recognized that her ambition was paired with a consistent ethical framework and a commitment to practical outcomes. Her work expanded his understanding of how businesses could engage with communities beyond traditional corporate philanthropy, leading him to embrace initiatives that were both profitable and socially beneficial. Their collaboration blurred the line between professional and personal impact, demonstrating that influence could be wielded responsibly without compromising core values. Their Hyde Park home became an extension of this philosophy. Situated between downtown Chicago and Bronzeville, It served as a gathering space for diverse communities, blending backgrounds, professions, and perspectives. Family gatherings, client dinners, and neighborhood meetings all took place under one roof, fostering conversation and collaboration. Guests ranged from local educators to Fortune 500 executives, artists to nonprofit leaders. Each encounter reinforced the potential for connection when barriers of status and background were set aside. These gatherings were intentional. Alexander and Jasmine understood that social and professional networks could serve as catalysts for change. They facilitated discussions about community needs, provided guidance for aspiring entrepreneurs, and created opportunities for partnerships that extended beyond their immediate circles. The home became a bridge, demonstrating how individual influence could create collective benefit when grounded in respect and purpose. The ripple effects of their relationship and leadership began to extend throughout Chicago. Local businesses gained access to resources previously unavailable. Young professionals found mentorship and support that encouraged them to pursue ambitious goals. Sterling Dynamics clients increasingly valued the firm's commitment to ethical practices, leading to new opportunities and collaborations. Alexander and Jasmine's personal and professional alignment created a model for how business success could coexist with community impact. Beyond measurable outcomes, their approach influenced corporate culture more broadly. Meetings incorporated discussions about long-term societal impact. Strategies were evaluated not only on financial return, but also on community benefit, and employees were encouraged to contribute ideas for projects that reflected personal values. Alexander's leadership style evolved, integrating empathy and awareness of social implications into decision-making, while Jasmine's influence ensured that initiatives remained grounded in practicality and inclusivity. Even routine interactions reflected this transformation. Team discussions included considerations of how client strategies might influence local communities. Presentations highlighted case studies demonstrating successful integration of profit and social benefit. New hires were introduced not only to technical processes, but also to the importance of responsibility and impact. Over time, the company's identity shifted from a purely competitive financial institution to one recognized for thoughtful leadership and purposeful innovation. In parallel, Jasmine's professional network expanded through her MBA program, speaking engagements, and published research. She became a sought-after mentor for students and emerging professionals interested in sustainable finance. Her success reinforced the notion that leadership could be grounded in values and empathy without sacrificing ambition. Alexander's continued support, coupled with her determination, allowed her to balance demanding projects while remaining deeply connected to her roots and community obligations. The synergy between their personal and professional lives became evident through both planned and unplanned opportunities. Projects initiated collaboratively often merged business strategy with tangible community benefits. Corporate presentations incorporated lessons from Bronzeville initiatives. Networking events fostered cross-community dialogue, creating lasting partnerships. By connecting their spheres of influence, Alexander and Jasmine cultivated a model of integrated leadership, demonstrating how a couple's shared vision could produce outcomes far beyond their individual contributions. Their work also inspired others within Sterling Dynamics to consider broader implications of their roles. Employees began volunteering in local schools, participating in mentorship programs, and contributing to community initiatives. The culture shifted from individual achievement to collective responsibility, illustrating that values-driven leadership could coexist with competitive success. The impact was measurable not only in business performance, but also in employee engagement, public perception, and the vibrancy of local communities. Throughout this period, Alexander and Jasmine maintained the balance between professional commitments and personal connection. They scheduled time to nurture their relationship, support each other's growth, and celebrate successes. Shared reflection on progress reinforced alignment of goals and priorities. Their partnership became a model of how love and ambition could coexist, with mutual support amplifying impact rather than creating tension. By the time their influence was widely recognized, Sterling Dynamics had undergone a profound transformation. Ethical investing and community engagement became embedded in corporate strategy. Jasmine's leadership and scholarship in sustainable finance positioned her as a national voice in the field. Their Hyde Park home continued to serve as a nexus for connection, dialogue, and opportunity. The ripples of their combined efforts extended far beyond immediate neighborhoods or business circles, demonstrating the potential for love, vision, and shared values to reshape systems and communities. Through careful integration of professional skill, ethical decision-making, and personal dedication, Alexander and Jasmine redefined what success meant in their lives. Financial achievement alone was no longer sufficient. Purpose, impact, and community engagement became essential markers. Their relationship illustrated that influence was most powerful when coupled with responsibility, and that collaboration grounded in respect and shared values could produce outcomes that neither could achieve alone. After 2 years together, Alexander planned a proposal that honored both their story and Jasmine's roots. He arranged a private evening at the DuSable Black History Museum in Bronzeville, surrounded by the achievements and history that had shaped her values. The museum's quiet halls, filled with artifacts of resilience and innovation, offered the perfect setting. Alexander guided Jasmine through exhibits celebrating African American leaders, innovators, and visionaries. Each display reflected a journey of determination and impact, echoing her own path. When they reached a section highlighting Chicago's civil rights movement, Alexander stopped and took her hands. His voice, usually confident and measured in business, trembled slightly with emotion. "Meeting you changed how I see the world," he said. "Not because of success or status, but because of the strength, vision, and integrity you carry. I want to share my life with you and build something meaningful together." He knelt, offering a ring that symbolized not just love but partnership, respect, and shared purpose. Jasmine's response was a mix of laughter and tears, fully aware that their union represented more than romance. It reflected values, commitment, and possibility. Their spring wedding was held in Millennium Park, the Chicago skyline forming a natural backdrop to the celebration. Guests from every part of their lives gathered: business colleagues, family from Bronzeville, friends from the university, and neighbors who had witnessed Jasmine's growth. The ceremony reflected both worlds harmoniously. Alexander's colleagues mingled easily with members of her community, learning from each other while celebrating the couple. Music echoed across the park, and speeches emphasized not just personal love, but the importance of community, integrity, and collaboration. Throughout the ceremony, it was clear that this was more than a personal milestone. Their union represented the integration of ambition and purpose, of opportunity with responsibility. Jasmine and Alexander's choices symbolized a belief in shared growth and mutual respect, demonstrating that love could bridge differences without erasing individuality. Life together combined luxury with meaningful engagement. Their Hyde Park home continued to serve as a center for dialogue, mentorship, and planning. They hosted events that brought together diverse voices, from corporate leaders to neighborhood organizers. Each gathering aimed to foster understanding, collaboration, and tangible outcomes for the city. At the same time, private moments remained sacred. Quiet mornings, shared meals, and long walks along Lake Michigan provided grounding amid their busy schedules. Alexander continued to guide Sterling Dynamics with a vision that balanced financial achievement and social impact. Initiatives supporting sustainable development, ethical investment, and community projects became central to the firm's identity. Jasmine's work with the company and her influence in sustainable finance education expanded, creating programs that empowered emerging leaders and offered resources to underserved communities. Their professional collaboration strengthened both the business and their connection, reinforcing the idea that shared goals amplified individual potential. For Jasmine, maintaining ties to Bronzeville remained essential. She regularly visited family, engaged with local schools, and supported small business programs. Alexander accompanied her at times, listening, learning, and contributing without overshadowing her role. Their relationship became a model of partnership where influence was shared, voices were amplified, and successes were collective. Together, they reflected on the moment that brought them together, the stormy morning in Willis Tower's lobby. What had begun as an accidental collision had evolved into a partnership that transformed their lives and extended impact throughout Chicago. The rain that once delayed her interview had ultimately revealed opportunity, demonstrating that unexpected events could set the stage for profound change. Their story inspired those around them, encouraging individuals to recognize the potential in moments of chance, the power of integrity, and the value of collaboration. It highlighted the importance of grounding ambition in purpose and of allowing relationships to grow without sacrificing personal principles or vision. Alexander and Jasmine also used their platforms to mentor others. Workshops, speaking engagements, and public appearances focused on leadership, ethical business practices, and sustainable finance. By sharing their experiences, they encouraged younger professionals and community members to pursue paths that combined personal growth with societal benefit. As they celebrated milestones, from business achievements to personal moments, their commitment to balance remained central. Luxury and influence were never ends in themselves, but tools to enhance community, provide opportunities, and foster understanding. The lessons of their shared journey, resilience, authenticity, and partnership, continued to shape decisions, actions, and aspirations. For viewers following their story, it stands as an example of what can emerge from connection, trust, and shared purpose. Their lives illustrate that transformative love is not only about romance, but also about creating systems of support, collaboration, and ethical impact that extend far beyond the couple. If you've enjoyed witnessing Jasmine and Alexander's journey, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. Tomorrow, another story of courage, opportunity, and transformation awaits, offering insights and inspiration that resonate in both personal and professional realms. Your support ensures more stories like this reach audiences ready to explore how unexpected moments can change everything. Through their example, it becomes clear that meaningful impact, whether in love, work, or community, requires intention, care, and vision. A rainy morning collision, an extended interview, and a willingness to see beyond differences culminated in a partnership that redefined success. The city around them, its people, opportunities, and history, continued to benefit from their choices, demonstrating that love grounded in values can transform more than hearts. It can shape a legacy. If this story inspired you, click the subscribe button, tell us where you're watching from, and turn on notifications so you don't miss tomorrow's powerful story. Your support helps bring more stories of resilience, love, and transformation to life.